Alright, so Mr. Ace and I are here at the Blackjack's domain and the stoneworks. This is the site of the former trailer that was burned by an arsonist that attacked us and did all sorts of stuff. But, this is where we started first finding some archaeological components that I thought brought us back to the 1700s, and went down a rabbit's hole of truly trying to understand what's going on my farm. And things kept going back further and further and getting older and older. Simultaneously, we have a farm and a farm plan that has a whole bunch of square footage lined up for development of our barn and a wallapini. So we have this greenhouse and barn design. Now the barn, I have an 1850s barn, no house, 3540 built. It's a beautiful restoration project that I'm trying to get over here, but once we started uncovering what this site was about, we started understanding the levels of archaeological significance that's going on here, and it was way further back in the 1700s. So I have a lot of videos on that. Everybody's willing to or able to take a look at that, and I'm willing to chat with anybody that wants to come and take a look at it. I've reached out to all sorts of state archaeologists and all kinds of officials and cultural heritage organizations that have representation of having lived in these lands as First Nations at the Abenaki Reserve and the Odanak, and they're very interested in being part of this from one of the archaeologists that I've chatted with so far. And I want to encourage everybody that feels a connection to it to be part of this as we clean this up. But yeah, I want to get rid of the staff trailer that burnt out and move on to some better memories. We have all kinds of things happening. All of our municipal permits, I think some people were thinking this is a development of housing, and it's not. The curb cut was so that I could move the driveway off of the top of the hill there at the southern hill, which is where we have our sugar house and Ace's space. And so in that sense, that curb cut was meant to get us away from that entrance and exit point. But then we ended up with issues with the former village municipality, now still a separate municipality from Waterbury, suing us for access to what I thought was a defunct spring because of this wetlands designation that some people say was real and some people think is made up, and I believe was shifted from a true Class 2 wetlands to the north when ground truthing went awry back in 2014. But regardless, I was never given due process or proper notice, if you will, of that. I never received a letter from the commissioner, and per law and statutes, yada yada yada, it's not necessarily even an official wetland. So I've sat with compliance officers and directors at my house after somebody tried to burn my house down, and managed to burn the staff trailer down, and it's just been a hassle. So a lot going on. I don't want to stay in the negative space of all this stuff that happened to us like we're victims. I mean, reality is life, and we all move on. But this is a stoneworks, and we want to restore it and understand what all these various stones were doing. So I have no interest in tearing apart what I believe is on par with dozens of UNESCO sites as far as the size, dimension, scale, orientations to the solstice events, equinox events, all of these OG things that we've discovered. So I have no intention of tearing this apart. Some people worry about that. I'm trying to let people know what actually is happening. So our permanent piece is further down, and it's all through here for the wallapini, and it goes to like right there. So we have a window, a building window, and an envelope that's flagged out. People know exactly where it is. It's got all the permits, yada yada yada. We have the municipal curb cut permits, We brought power in. So all of these pieces have been finished and completed. This is not some new thing. What is new is effectively a proposal. Come, let's go. To do some archaeological dig permits up in the Worcesters. And that's kind of on the table. And then the other piece, we're trying to get the state archaeologist out here so he can confirm. But a lot of people are wary to confirm these bigger ideas that kind of push a lot of traditional archaeologists into dark places and holes of challenging their careers. The kinds of logic they used and applied, which at the time was a prevalent form of thinking. The more we get data points and forensics of archaeology, the harder it is to deny these realities of previous civilizations. So where I think the traditional guard has really monopolized a lot of the kind of idea of alternative timelines of the Graham Hancocks of the world and the ideas that a previous civilization existed, it's now much easier to show that it actually did through data science, Google Earth, aerial imaging, and that's how, I've proposed and used thousands of images of ground penetration disturbance and LiDAR to prove the magnetic north to magnetic south line of 12,235 miles is in fact engineered by humans and has both slopes and elevation pitches and ground disturbance that reflect that, with potentially pools of water in various stations like subway stations with energy recharging spots. So I don't know anything more than that really in some sense of technology base, and I'm not trying to make big theories and claims on stuff that I have no scientific fact for. What I do have science for is data of stoneworks, 1,400 foot long effigy in stone where earthen mounds east of the Mississippi are found in Hopewell, Ohio, or Poverty Point, Louisiana. These are all UNESCO recognized sites, and that's what this site matches. Further, it goes on to then link through the magnetic north to magnetic south line to Machu Picchu, which when you then intersect lines from here and there to all of the pyramid sites in Central America and Mexico, and essentially the cliff dwells and Mesa Verdes and Chaco canyons of the Southwest, and then all of the pictographs and petroglyph sites of the Northwest and Western America. All of a sudden, those specific GPS points can be plotted. That's just data. You can't say I'm either right or wrong. I mean, you can't say it's a shade of right or wrong. It's either right or it's wrong, and it's plotted right now, specifically in such a way that it creates a latitude and longitude for the Americas that literally would have proven an ancient civilization utilizing this magnetic north to south point as their control point, if you will, to create these two sites along it that would then be able to map out all of South America and all of North America. So that's what we have here. Come, let's go. This is an observatory, effectively, and while it's also my backyard, it's something I don't really want to screw up. So I do want to try to get this right. And I think part of what we're going to look to do is take our permit of the 270 feet, which stops just right about here, and turn that into 1,000 feet, which goes past that there. But instead of 210 feet wide, we'll make it 150 feet. Go. And then in that process, where I have to set back 50 feet off of a water course like we just crossed, and this is my old bridge that got pretty beat up, and I was going to replace it. But my thought was, well, why don't we just build cribbing? And if we build cribbing across this whole space, we could literally then put train tracks or minor tracks, just used rail, which I've done the cost specking, and it's actually way cheaper for us to use rail cribbed in this style than it is, say, to pour foundation of concrete. Now, if we were to dig and pour foundation of concrete, well, that's a pretty permanent thing. You can't adjust that. And my biggest fear and concern is with what we're learning about the celestial reality of this place. If I build something in my permitted zone, and then the next thing you know, I built it like Meadow House in a way from one spot in a line of sight that I had no idea was an ancient line of sight from a stone effigy. I kind of don't want to do that again. You know, I mean, on one hand, I accept the fact that that may have been the piece, the reason. Come. Oops, good dog. Why I'm able to actually connect the dots here. But then again, come. It may also be a mistake I just don't want to make again. So the thought was, if we run a set of tracks over here, probably ending at this tree, that's 1,000 feet there. So if we did this, we could restore the 1850s barn literally as is on a set of tracks. And then that barn would be able to also function as archaeological shade, so that as we move it from section to section, we could dig and look to figure out what's going on underneath in sort of a very defined matrix of grids for the archaeology pieces of the stoneworks. Now, the property has a land grant that the Kinship Church of Sacred Spaces, effectively, in English legal, is a holder of. And so I am doing double duty in a way, very transparently, to say that that would be signed off on from a pious level, if you will. And as a nonprofit, much of this can be done through donated materials and things like that for, taxation, expensing. But the purpose of that is not necessarily just to create some alternative approach to getting around something. I just as soon pay plenty of taxes and sell our cannabis, but part of the problem is the regulatory system doesn't always get it right. So if the supply-demand cycles relative to the number of, say, retailers isn't matched up, it's harder to generate sales that way. But all the same, that's also one of our focus right now, which is where we're going with respect to if we're able to finance this, with our pre-rolls and people making donations, or through, having a donation for an apple fritter from our pantry here. It doesn't really matter to me, but if people want to weaponize it and play games, I have no interest in doing that. I just want to see this archaeological restoration happen, because I believe it's a clockworks of 41,000 years, and I believe it has significant amounts of intellectual property being attributed to civilizations way earlier than the 1800s or even 1600s with respect to cartography and surveying concepts. So I have nothing but respect for whomever was up here, the waves of archaeoastronomers that understood what was going on, and I want to make sure that this gets shared. And I think the best solution for it that I can come up with is, if we can bring this and effectively put a telescope or some form of astral surveying into that barn on tracks, so it has that as a kind of a sort of a research center, if you will. So the upper story is able to look upwards, and the lower stories are able to dig in the ground. The track system makes sense, and it's not so inexpensive that I don't think I could, not make it work. So I think it's not so cost prohibitive rather. So anyway, a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I'm going to post this, and hopefully those that are interested will either want to get involved. Volunteers, more than welcome. And anybody willing to make donations, we will have all kinds of fun things. Hopefully a creamy and espresso maker going, and tours for all those that want to show support. And I really am grateful, and I know a lot of people like to play the popularity contest of high schools of like, my monotheism's better than your monotheism. I'm going to get a gang of people to hate on you. And like, I don't know. I just believe in this idea of polytheism because I want to hold space for everything that is real about people's true sense of spirit and what they want out of life, and, you know, the better sense of non-manipulative humans. What's up, geese? So that's kind of where we're going. I hope everybody's having a great day. Challenging times, so try to stay positive in, but do your best. Come visit if you need a spell. And, you know, hopefully we'll get some of the stoneworks uncovered and having some fun up here soon. Peace.